Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment. I only have one question. Why so serious?
A chaos agent, someone who defies all conventions. Not only with his cruelty and violence, but with the ability to make us question every value, every rule. Someone who forces us to realize the chaotic and unpredictable nature of existence. The Joker is more than a simple villain. He's a master at manipulating human thought and understands the rules of the so-called game of life better than most. And he refuses to submit to anything the world considers normal, deeply exploring truths that most people prefer to ignore.
Just one little thing. When you introduce me, can you call me Joker?
It's not exactly known when the figure of the Joker first appeared in history. It's believed that his origin was around 1850 when his figure first appeared to be incorporated into card games. And regardless of the exact time or for which specific game it was created, what is certain is that this is a dynamic card, which has traditionally become known for its versatility, being able to play several roles within games. But it's not just because of this chameleon-like ability that it draws attention. If we analyze the symbolism behind this card, we see that it is represented by the figure of a court jester. Now, what exactly was a court jester? The court jester was a very common figure in the Middle Ages. He was an employee of the monarchy, and his job was to entertain the king and queen. What many didn't realize is that with his wit disguised as foolishness and humor, he was the only one who dared and was able to tell the truth in a disguised way. Only he had the power to criticize, play tricks, and make jokes about his bosses without having his throat cut. After all, he was just a fool. If we look at it from a clearer, more psychological perspective, telling the truth directly can be confrontational and even aggressive. But when you wrap it in humor, the same truth can be more easily digested and accepted. When we laugh, we are open to accepting truths that we might otherwise reject or ignore. And in this sense, humor becomes a powerful social and psychological tool to reveal truths about our human nature, our hypocrisies, and our moral dilemmas. Certainly, all this context was fundamental in inspiring the creation of Batman's iconic villain, who first appeared in the comics in 1940. Over the years and through the various adaptations and updates he went through, the Joker became increasingly marked as a psychopath with a sense of humor, sadistic, and perverse. And it didn't take long for him to be recognized by critics and fans as Batman's greatest adversary. Among the various portrayals, whether in cartoons or movies, without a doubt, the Joker from Batman, The Dark Knight, played by Heath Ledger, is, in my opinion, the most provocative of them all.
I'm a man of my word.
The thing about Batman is his villains are always more interesting, making him almost a villain himself. We shouldn't let him seem dull next to them. As I sat there, I realized this. I'm feeling dull by comparison because Heath is just killing this.
To understand Heath Ledger's character a little more deeply, you first need to clarify the foundation of this character. Who is he? What are his motivations? What is his role in society? And here is the big secret, the big trick of the Joker. Because when you start trying to answer these questions, you realize that there isn't a very clear answer. You can even determine one thing or another, but it's very hard to fit him into any category in our society other than crazy or something like that. That happens because he's not playing the same game as everyone else. He's completely outside, foreign. So you might even say he's a criminal, but don't try to compare him to or understand him as one.
Criminals in his language means to believe in things.
Honor, respect. Look at you. What do you believe in?
This unclassifiable nature of Joker is the result of the strong detachment that is in his essence. Nothing seems to have value for him. And in this context, all the fantasy of cinema helps to create a character with traits that would be impossible in the real world.
Prints, DNA, dental clothing, his custom no labels, nothing in his pockets but knives and lint, no name.
In this way, an impeccable image of a villain was built, symbolizing the rejection of absolutely everything that was imposed on him. He is not guided by the same values, beliefs, or conformities that drive our civilizations, which makes him unpredictable and causes fear. Normally, a villain seeks wealth, power, or revenge, but Joker isn't interested in any of that, which makes him non-negotiable and even more dangerous.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical like money. They can't be bullied, reasoned with, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
As Malcolm X once said, the most dangerous creation in the world in any society is a man who has nothing to lose.
You have nothing to threaten you.
Once this foundation of the character is clarified, sustained by detachment and total separation and rejection of the conventional world, we begin to understand a little about his main motivation.
All you care about is money. This town deserves a better class of cripplers. It's not about money. It's about spreading a message. Everything burns.
All he wants is to watch the world burn, to see the world in ruins for having believed so firmly in lies. And that's why he provokes.
Enough from the clown.
Creating situations and playing his little games in an attempt to draw out people's deepest and truest desires.
Why I use a knife? Guns are too quick. You can't savor, the little emotions. You see, in their last moments, people show you who they really are.
He likes to corrupt people to prove that all the rules and values they preach so much about are meaningless. Ultimately, they are worthless, since they're not based on an internal morality, but rather on a false collective morality.
Their morals, their code. It's a bad joke I've dropped at the first sign of trouble. They're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people will eat each other.
His big impact in the movie is managing to corrupt the man who represented the fight against crime in Gotham, the symbol of justice. He proved that the great hope of all the citizens for a better city was a farce.
I took Gotham quite in our hate, and I brought him down to our level. It wasn't hard. See, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push.
He is dark, very nasty. He's a psychopath, sociopath, mass-murdering clown.
Portraying such a complex, dark character as Joker is certainly not an easy task. It's no wonder the process of choosing the actor was anything but simple. And the most curious thing is that Heath Ledger wasn't even one of the top contenders for the role. Because even though he had already done some successful movies at the time, for many critics, he still hadn't reached the level of the other names that were being considered. When it was confirmed the young Australian was chosen, director Christopher Nolan faced heavy criticism. Media and fans were outraged because they saw no potential in him. The main doubt was how a boy with such a good-natured face could play such a cruel villain. Oh,
Heath Ledger didn't make any sense to people at all.
the intense pressure and criticism behind his casting certainly had an even greater impact on the actor's life, who already said he didn't believe he was good enough. Just take a look at this statement he made in 2005, a little before he was cast for the role of the Joker. When I'm cast for something, I always think I shouldn't have been cast. I think I fooled them again that I can't do this, that I don't know how to do this. There's a huge anxiety which overshadows any excitement I have about the project. But all that doubt made Heath Ledger dedicate himself even more to his roles. And obviously, with the Joker, it wouldn't be any different.
Heath was ready to take on something that big.
Nolan trusted his ability so much that he gave him creative freedom. Completely immersed in the character, Ledger simply felt what he had to do in several scenes. And because of that, he strayed from the script through improvisations. Almost no one expected this transformation from the actor. The film's own cast was deeply shocked, to the point that the actor Michael Caine, who plays Alfred in the film, declared that the surprise was so great that when he saw Heath Ledger as the Joker for the first time, he even forgot his line.
Heath was always in character, so he would come around and be talking to himself in the corner. Like this.
Obviously, behind this incredible transformation, there was all the actor's dedication. He locked himself in a London hotel room for 6 weeks, isolating himself from society to begin his immersion into becoming this sociopath. His involvement with this dark character was so intense that he revealed he averaged only 2 hours of sleep a night during filming because he couldn't stop thinking. Even though his body was exhausted, his mind just wouldn't shut off, which led him to start taking some medication. And that's when many people believe a downward spiral began in the life of the actor, Life. It's not exactly known if the role of the Joker was the main factor that affected the actor's mental sanity. What is known is that he was going through mental disorders and that the Batman movie was the last film he completed when he was found dead in his apartment. At 28 years old, a victim of a fatal mix of some prescribed medications, he was in the middle of the production of the movie The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Since then, there has been a lot of speculation and several controversial statements about the real cause of his death, including one from Jack Nicholson. It's one of the most important topics because Jack Nicholson had already played the character of the Joker in the 1989 Batman movie. Everyone assumed he was referring to the difficulty of playing such an emotionally intense character. And even though, a few days later, he stated that he was referring to drugs and not to the character, the truth is there's a lot of mystery behind this whole story.
Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order and everything becomes chaos.
But who wants to live with chaos, embracing uncertainty and instability with nothing secure or certain to hold on to? From the perspective of order, chaos seems like an invitation to a bottomless pit, representing a threat to people's lives. And that's why it's preferable to choose something to lean on, something that gives us some explanation and makes us see meaning in all this randomness and unpredictability of life that is so hard to explain. Within this context, something emerges that some thinkers have decided to call social institutions. Within them lie the answers to the order, stability, and security we deeply desire. But what exactly are these institutions? They can be understood as any kind of convention created by humans. Whether physical or not, they are any kind of agreement made between two or more people. So from marriage to work or even government, money, education, they are all examples of man-made systems, complex systems of rules and structures that, in a way, make it easier to see a path in the search for meaning. People. The strong aversion we have to chaos creates insecurity and worry in our lives. This makes social institutions emerge as a great way to ease this pain. And that's why we accept them and take them so seriously. The idea that someone might disturb our order is detestable because deep down, much of what we believe was imposed on us. We didn't build it ourselves, so when we see someone show up to challenge our beliefs, we reject them. After all, we don't want our illusions to be destroyed. And that's exactly where Karina comes in from.
I'm not a monster, I'm just ahead of the curve.
Unlike most people, these institutions are not the pillars of Karina's life. And because of that, he despises them, sees them as mere games and can't take them seriously. For him, these social institutions are what make us give up our human freedom, making us submissive to a series of rules and hostages, a strong pressure and expectation for results. The problem is that the pressure to fit into these social conventions can be overwhelming. It's not easy to deal with it, simply escape or ignore it. And I believe this even reflected in Heath Ledger's own life. I don't like telling people what to do, but his own interviews and statements are proof of how anxiety and overthinking were impacting his mind and his life. It's very hard to relax. We live in an anxious society that cannot allow the existence of individuals who don't belong, whether to a group or whatever it may be. And because of that, we constantly feel obligated to fit into some institution, because that's the main remedy for anxiety, to belong and to be recognized for it. We're programmed this way. We grow up hearing about the importance of fitting into some institution. So we make plans and shape our lives around that, because we need somehow to fit into what society demands from us. Otherwise, we end up being punished by our own bodies, which, already programmed to reject any deviation along the way, bombards us with negative feelings, sometimes so hard to deal with that we even need to resort to anxiolytics.
You know, I notice nobody panics when things go according to plan, even if the plan is horrifying.
It doesn't matter what our plans are based on. What's important is having something to follow that gives us certainty in an uncertain world. And, as a consolation, having the reassurance of looking around and seeing that many others have chosen this path. That's comforting. It makes you a normal person and assures your need to belong. But at the same time, isn't this constant search for control and planning the main reason for our frustrations?
They're schemers trying to control their little worlds. I'm not a schemer. I try to show the schemers how pathetic their attempts to control things really are. You were a schemer. You had plans, and look where that got you.
The Joker can see that this series of games is a mask where people play defined roles that often aren't reflections of who they really are. Conformity and seriousness become key elements to ensure stability in this life. But unfortunately, they're just remedies, not solutions to the problem. I started this video with the most iconic line from Joker.
What is the Joker?
And it's on top of this question that I want to conclude, because this provocation can be much deeper than it seems. To understand this reasoning, the first thing is to establish that there is a difference between seriousness and sincerity. Although both are seen in a positive light by society, few people understand the fundamental difference between these two concepts. While sincerity represents a real connection with yourself, seriousness is tied to something external, IT. In other words, if you are being sincere, you are being true to what you think and believe. Unlike when you choose to act with seriousness, where you have to ignore what you have inside yourself, IT. This is the fundamental principle of seriousness, trying to control your internal impulses to maintain a certain posture. The problem starts when, throughout our growth process, we are deceived by this immediate and superficial system that governs our society. And we start to believe that the path of seriousness is what will bring us the most rewards. Little by little, we give up sincerity to bet everything on seriousness, believing that this is the best strategy to achieve what we want, without realizing the paradoxical situation we're getting ourselves into. Because while this strategy might bring us closer to a goal, it takes us further away from who we really are. And so what we desire, just like the seriousness we adopt, is just a mask. Social media. Joker's ambition to corrupt people lies in this idea of revealing the true face that hides behind the seriousness with which they play this game. John knows seriousness isn't truly genuine or pure, but it's based on a reward system that makes an individual adopt a behavior just to get something in return. The Joker's main mistake in the movie is thinking Batman is just like everyone else. That's why he constantly tries to corrupt him, to make him abandon his principles and rules.
Tonight you will break your only rule.
What he didn't expect was that Batman's morality was real. No matter how hard the Joker tries to make him break it, he can't. Because Batman keeps his principles not out of a search for reward or fear of punishment, but because they are a sincere expression of who he is.
You truly are incorruptible, aren't you?
I consider Heath Ledger's Joker the greatest villain in history because I see in him an invitation, a provocation for us to look at and understand the true nature of our actions, and to realize that our intention to take everything so seriously is a reflection of how lost we are, of how this seriousness has made us unable to realize that our greatest sin is having destroyed and completely betrayed ourselves for nothing. So,
Why so serious? I hate my father. Here!